Ever since Hermeticism has been around, there has not been a coherent explanation of how we can all share the same collective mental inner space if we each have separate private mental lives. In other words, why are we not aware of everything in the exterior world if our inner consciousness is what produces it? And why do we not have access to other people's mental lives? Well, for a while these questions seemed to be unanswerable, until the psychologist Carl Jung unintentionally came up with an answer. We will now be diving into what the Quantum Hermetica has to say about how Jung's collective subconscious can help explain how each of us can have separate mental lives of our own, while at the same time all sharing a collective mental reality. No account of correspondence given to a contemporary audience would be complete without a mention of the psychology of Carl Jung. His death psychology can be largely summarized in three essential concepts. First, the collective unconscious is a domain of the subconscious common to everyone. The idea here is that in addition to personal subconscious influences, we also have a shared subconscious mind, even though we have separate conscious minds. The same subconscious influences can appear in multiple people despite their being seemingly disconnected and coming from distinct and socially cultural backgrounds. The second concept has to do with archetypes. Archetypes are those images and patterns which exist in the collective unconscious, which can sometimes manifest themselves separately and seemingly independently people's minds. These can come in various ways, including through fiction and mythology. However, Jung's work on dream analysis found themes to exist in various people's dreams, despite cultural differences. The third has to do with synchronies. Synchronies are coincidences that defy probability, yet have personal meaning to those who have them. Often, they are directly related to or involve archetypal material manifesting in the collective unconscious appearing in the external world. We will explore this in a future video. The collective unconscious is our focused examination of the phenomena sometimes referred to as paranormal or occult. However, these things have a perfectly rational explanation and is not at all magical. Now, as we asked before, we asked, why do we not have omniscient knowledge of the physical world if the world emerges from the inner mental world? The answer is that while our minds are extended in the inner mental world, they do not encompass it. Most of it lies in our subconscious and is not merely just our personal subconscious either, but rather it is the interpersonal subconscious, or what Carl Jung referred to the collective subconscious. Furthermore, one could also say that the reason we do not have access to the larger intermental world is because our personal minds are disassociated alters of the intermental world, and so we would only get a small glimpse of what is actually going on. Disassociation simply means that the mental contents cannot evoke other mental contents, and so there are going to be cognitive barriers between dissociated alters, as well as barriers between our personal minds and the collective subconscious. And, since we don't have direct access to the collective subconscious, then we are not aware of all the information that is generated in the world. The contents of these collective subconscious can influence our conscious minds even if we are unaware of it. However, we would still not have direct access to it because we are disassociated from it. Furthermore, Jung in his research on dreams found that one of his patients had a strange dream with the archetypal imagery that was common among his patients despite cultural differences. However, even though it seems to be outside of a scientific explanation, it is possible to provide a fully scientific understanding of the collective unconscious in light of the physics behind emergent spacetime and by extension mentalism. Our minds can be described as quantum mechanical states in superposition behind spacetime, though they are separate and disassociated from it. The rest of Hilbert space is comprised of mental states, ultimately encoding in the universal wave function. These mental states would comprise the contents of the collective subconscious. The entire universe is thus generated from an informational construct from this collective subconscious. Separate people's minds would temporarily entangle with these quantum states stored in these collective subconscious. This would then be enough for them to become aware of the archetypal material bleeding up from the collective subconscious. And due to the non-local nature of this entanglement and the non-spatial nature of the realm beyond space and time, distance would not be a problem. People as distant as the United States and Korea could pick up these same themes in their dreams independently despite never having seen them in the waking world. So, in the field of quantum cognition, Jung's archetypes are sometimes modeled as superpositions behind spacetime. Also, we know there is Jung's description of his encounters with a character named Philomon. This character would appear in his dreams as an old man with kingfisher wings and appeared to have distinct personality and have a mind of his own. As Carl Jung says, Philomon and other figures in my fantasies brought home to me the crucial insight that there are things in the psyche which I do not produce, but which produce themselves and have their own life. Philomon represented a force which was not myself. In my fantasies, I held conversations with him, and he said things that I had not consciously thought, for observed clearly that he was he who spoke and not I. He said I treated thoughts as if I generated them myself, but in his view, thoughts were like animals in their forest, or people in a room, or birds in the air, and added, quote, "If you should see people in a room, you would not think that you had made these people, or that you were responsible for them," end quote. It was though he taught me psychic objectivity and the reality of the psyche. Through him, the distinction was clarified between myself and the object of my thought. He confronted me in an objective manner, and I understood that there is something in me things which I do not know, and which do not intend things which may be distinct against me. The collective subconscious has many such beings. The point is that while we as human beings are dissociated alters of the collective subconscious, there may also be other dissociated alters in the collective subconscious which are not themselves humans, but rather may be other beings that we may consider to be supernatural. Dreams may sometimes contain warnings or advice from these messengers. In fact, the seemingly mysterious phenomena of night terrors, difficult to explain through materialist science, is an example of which can be explained through the framework of the collective subconscious. So, in conclusion, the reason that we have separate private mental lives and don't have access to the mental inner realm which produces space-time is because we are disassociated alters of a larger collective subconscious, and within the collective subconscious there may exist other alters which may appear within our dreams and present archetypes to different people around the world, despite and regardless of cultural differences. Because the mental inner realm, there is no spatial extension.